You looked so different, as if life itself erased every trace of who you used to be. I barely recognized you, but my heart whispered, "Don't pretend you've forgotten them." You looked so different, like a memory rewritten by time's cruel hand. The stranger standing before me carried your name, but not your soul. You looked so different, and I wondered if you ever think the same about me. I barely recognized you, yet I felt the same trembling in my chest as years ago. You looked different, but the silence between us remained painfully familiar. Your transformation showed me that love never stands still. It moves, even when we don't. You looked different, and for a moment, I mourned the person you used to be. I barely recognized you, and maybe that's life's way of telling me to let go. You look so different, and I realized the version of you I love lives only in memory. Your eyes held secrets that time carved deeper than I could ever reach. You looked different, but I still saw the flicker of the soul I once adored. I barely recognized you, but the ache of recognition was undeniable. You looked so different, and it felt like meeting a stranger in the body of someone I knew. Time had rewritten your face, but my heart still read every line. You looked different, but your silence was exactly the same. I barely recognized you, but the truth is, I was searching for the old you. You looked so different, yet I still wanted to walk toward you instead of away. The stranger before me wore your voice, and it shook me to my core. You looked different, and I wondered if pain had made you stronger or just colder. I barely recognized you, but the way my chest ached told me I never truly let go. You looked so different, like someone who lived 1,000 lives in my absence. The sight of you reminded me that love doesn't just fade, it transforms. You looked different, and in that change, I saw the chapters I was never part of. I barely recognized you, but my heart recognized the story it never finished writing. You looked so different, yet I caught myself searching for familiar shadows in your smile. The person I once loved now looks like a stranger living in their skin. You looked different, as though every car told a story I was too late to hear. I barely recognized you, but your silence screamed louder than your face. You looked different, but my soul still leaned toward you like it always had. Time had carved you into someone unrecognizable, and it terrified me. You look so different, and I realized the distance between us had become permanent. I barely recognized you, but my tears recognized you instantly. You looked different, but something about you still pulled me in. The person in front of me was both everything I knew and nothing I remembered. You looked so different, and I wasn't sure if I loved or hated the change. I barely recognized you, but I still recognized the way my soul trembled near you. You looked different, like someone who had finally learned how to live without me. The version of you I knew is gone, replaced by someone stronger, colder, quieter. You looked so different, but in my memory, you'll forever stay the same. I barely recognized you, and maybe that was the closure I needed all along. You looked different, as though your soul had shed every part of me it once carried. The sight of you taught me that even love has an expiration date. You looked so different, yet my body still remembered how to ache for you. I barely recognized you, but I'll never forget the person you once were. You looked different, and for a moment, I envied the world that shaped you. The distance between us was louder than any words we could have exchanged. You looked so different, but deep down, I still wished you'd see me. I barely recognized you, yet I still knew you were once my home. You looked different, as if time had forced you to grow wings I couldn't follow. The stranger you've become reminded me of everything I lost along the way. You looked different, but the universe still taught your presence to my heart. I barely recognized you, and I wondered if you even saw me at all. You looked different, and it hurt to realize I no longer fit into your story. Your face told me everything I didn't want to accept. You've moved on. You look so different, like the world finally gave you the freedom I couldn't. I barely recognized you, but my silence screamed everything my heart still felt. You looked different, and it reminded me that even love isn't safe from time. The person I once knew is gone, and maybe that's the only way love survives, by becoming unrecognizable. You looked so different, I barely recognized you, and in that moment, I realized how much time had changed us. I almost walked past you because the version of you standing there didn't match the one I held in memory. Your eyes were familiar, yet everything else about you screamed of a story I was no longer part of. You looked so different, and I couldn't tell if it broke me or healed me to see you like that. I barely recognized you, not because of your face, but because of the silence between us. Seeing you again reminded me that even the people we love can turn into strangers overnight. You look different, not only in appearance, but in the way your soul no longer reached for mine. I almost didn't know it was you, and that truth cut deeper than any goodbye we ever shared. Your smile looked foreign, as though it belonged to someone I hadn't met yet. You looked so different, and I realized I was still holding onto a ghost version of you. The way you carried yourself made it clear. You've lived lifetimes since I last knew you. I barely recognized you, but my heart remembered before my eyes could. You looked so different, and it was proof that time is both cruel and merciful. The face I once kissed now looked like a stranger's, and I didn't know whether to cry or smile. You've changed in ways that silence can't explain and words can't heal. I barely recognized you, but I recognized the ache you still left in me. You looked so different, yet something in your eyes whispered, I remember you too. The person I once knew is gone, but a new version of you stood tall before me. I almost asked, who are you? But deep down, I already knew the answer. You look so different, and I realized life had rewritten you into someone else's story. The lines on your face weren't just age, they were maps of battles I never witnessed. I barely recognized you, but I still recognized the fire I once fell in love with. You looked so different, as if life demanded you shed every layer of who you used to be. The way you looked tonight reminded me that people don't just grow, they transform. You looked different, but my heart still skipped in the same old rhythm. Seeing you like that reminded me how love sometimes feels like mourning the living. I barely recognized you, and I wondered if you still carried a piece of me inside you. You looked different, as though life sculpted you into a masterpiece I could no longer claim. In your difference, I saw all the versions of myself that no longer belonged with you. I barely recognized you, but the ache in my chest recognized itself instantly. You looked so different, but the universe whispered, this is still them, just not for you anymore. Your laughter sounded like a stranger's voice, but my soul still leaned toward it. You looked different, but maybe I was the one who truly changed. The person I once knew is gone, and this new version doesn't owe me anything. I barely recognized you, but I'll never forget the person you once were. You looked different, and for a moment, I hated how life could steal familiarity. Even in your difference, I caught glimpses of the one I once loved. You looked different, and I wondered if I ever truly knew you at all. The distance between who you are now and who you were then broke me silently. You looked so different, but I realized memories don't age gracefully. They just haunt us. I barely recognized you, and maybe that's how healing disguises itself. You looked different, as if the universe had washed away the version of you I loved. You've become a stranger wearing the face of someone I once called mine. You looked different, and it forced me to accept that we can't go back. I barely recognized you, but my tears did. They fell like old companions. You looked so different, yet you still had the power to shatter me without a word. The person standing before me was both you and not you, a paradox my heart couldn't solve. You looked different, and I realized maybe That's what survival looks like. I barely recognized you, but my soul bowed in recognition of the lessons you gave me. You looked different, and I wondered if I'd recognize myself through your eyes. Every detail about you screamed change, but some part of you still whispered my name. You looked different, as if pain had carved new stories into your skin. I barely recognized you, but my memories reached out and clung desperately. You looked different, and I didn't know whether to chase or let go. The sight of you reminded me that love doesn't freeze in time. It burns, it alters, it evolves. You looked different, but I still caught myself searching for the person I used to know. I barely recognized you, yet my heart still ached for the fragments of you it lost. You look so different, but in your silence, I heard every unspoken goodbye. You are no longer the person I loved. You are someone the world shaped in my absence.